Welcome to Real Talk with LaShondra. I'm your host, LaShondra Mercurius. This is a podcast dedicated to getting real and raw with myself, and no topic is off limits. I will be sharing my thoughts and life experiences as an African American woman and the challenges that come with being a wife, mother, entrepreneur, and being a business partner with my husband. I will be opening up about my successes, failures, and lessons learned over the course of my life's journey, as well as how I've been able to heal and turn my trauma into power. Get ready to get real. Welcome back. You are listening to Real Talk with LaShondra, and I am your host, LaShondra Mercurius. On today's episode, I want to talk about a recent survey that I took among my friends and family. I was curious to hear how those in my circle view me and what they think of me and why they would listen or find someone like me interesting. And I asked them to give me the brutal truth when it comes to me. And the reason that I wanted to do this survey is because as I embark on this journey of self-discovery, of really sort of sharing my wisdom in how I navigated through business and how I've got to the place that I am today, being a president of a multi-million-dollar recruiting and staffing firm called JLM Strategic Talent Partners, and also introducing a new software to our industry. I wanted to really dive into me. And I think that through this journey of being an entrepreneur, I think that I've worn a lot of masks. You know, there's a very fine line between the real you and your representative, and the representative that shows up and plays the role or plays the part that you think is needed for whatever situation that you're in. And sometimes it makes it very difficult for a person to know who is the real you. And I think in a lot of ways, I've lost myself in a lot of aspects. And I'm not saying that, as this, totally bad thing, but I think that happens to everyone. We get so wrapped up into our titles and our jobs, and we start to wrap our identity up in those things, but that's not the real you. And so part of me discovering myself and being raw and real with you is figuring out, who the hell am I? Who's the real me? Because what I'm learning, especially with all the shifts that's been happening with me, with, changing positions in the company, giving up a lot of control, starting a new venture, which is this podcast, starting a book, redefining myself. There's times when I became paralyzed because I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know what I wanted. And it made me feel just insecure. It just made me feel like I just wasn't enough because I had been showing up as all these different characters over the course of, being an entrepreneur and being in business. So I want to get back to me. So that's why I took the survey, because I wanted to understand, how am I showing up in the world first? Because that's a huge key on being successful in business, because people work with people that they like and that they can connect with and that are genuine. And it's not to say that I didn't show up my authentic self, but I think that over time that gets lost and gets skewed sometimes. So it's always important that you sort of, kind of come back to you, and you have to sort of reevaluate. You know what? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Am I in my purpose? And so that's really the thing that I want to explore in this particular episode. So I took the survey. Now, when I started this podcast, I had to really think about, and everyone tells you this, oh, you got to think about your target audience. Who do you think you can help? Who's going to be interested? And yada, yada, yada. All that stuff that I really don't care about. I really just care about doing the podcast and being the best that I can and inspiring women. But my team tells me I have to worry about that stuff. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to worry about it LaShondra style. So I decided to poll individuals that I felt were interested in me and that had a relationship with me or had some attraction to my story, to my personality, people that like to be in my energy. And so I wanted to understand, well, what is it? What is it about me that makes me interesting? That makes people want to be around me, because that was going to help me understand how I'm showing up in the business world, how I'm showing up as a friend, a mom, and all those different hats that we wear, right? So we came to a consensus, and just so you know, this could absolutely change over the course of time, because it's really just an educated guess. So my educated guess was that my target audience is mainly women, not discriminating against any men. Any men that find me interesting and want to hear my story, you are welcome to join in the pool. We will welcome you with open arms. So women mainly between the ages of 28 and 60. That's a large range. I get it. I know. But I think it's a healthy range because I myself am 46 years old. Again, 25 if anyone asks. But that's the range and scope of individuals that I deal with. And typically that range is the working range. Between the ages of 26 and 60, that's when most women are executing in their careers, they're starting businesses. And don't get me wrong, there are women that start businesses and start careers before and after that. But when you think of an aggregate or an average, that's typically, at heyday of, working and doing all that. So that's my target audience. So I'm actually going to share with you some of the feedback that I got. So what I asked, and it was very simple, and I kept the question very broad because I wanted people to have the freedom to answer the question based on wherever they felt. So I'll share with you my question. Then I'll share with you some of the feedback that I got that made me feel good, that hyped me up, that made me feel confident, and made me feel like, wow, I'm a boss, I'm doing it. And then I'll share with you the feedback that made me say, ooh, I don't know. I don't know if I should have quit my day job and started doing this. So I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and ugly because, of course, this is real talk. So I want to be as honest with you as I can. So the question was very simple. I just asked. I told people, I said, hey, I'm working on my new season for my podcast, and I need you to tell me, what is it about me that makes me interesting, and what would you like to hear from me that you feel would be of value to your life? So some of the feedback was very interesting because some people took a very personal approach to that feedback, and other people took a very professional approach. So this is sort of a conglomerate of all of that information together because I got some amazing feedback, but it would take me forever and a day to read all that stuff. So we'll start with the feedback that gave me confidence. Okay. Give me 1 second. Let me get it all in there. Okay. So the things that people really enjoyed about me and about my story are this: that I persevere and I know how to make things happen. So that was one. They said that I'm relatable and I'm willing to open up and talk about uncomfortable things about life, which is in the title, Real Talk. I ain't afraid to put my dirty laundry out there. And this one was very interesting because this could have gone either way. It could have given me confidence or it could have not given me confidence. So one of the comments were, you are a powerhouse, but you don't know it. So I thought to myself, oh, wow, that's a good one. And I didn't really know how to take it at first because I'm like, well, are they trying to say that I'm not as good as I think I am? Or are they saying I'm better than I think I am? So, because I thought I was a powerhouse, I really felt that way. But if someone is perceiving me as not being in touch with maybe how big I really am or how big I really could be, that was very eye-opening for me because it gave me something to look forward to. it gave me something to sort of reach for, because there have been times when I have felt like I don't know where to go from here. Like, I feel like I have a lot of accomplishments, which is great. But at the same time, it's like, but what next? What do I do next? So the exciting thing about that particular comment was it let me know that, boy, I have way more potential, that I might not even be tapping into my potential. Because remember, you know, you can be a billionaire and you can accomplish so many amazing things, but that may not be your purpose. That may not be what you were meant to do. And it may not be satisfying for you. So that's the thing that I want to change in my own personal belief system, is judging, what's an accomplishment and what's success based on what society tells you, or what this person over here thinks, or what that person over there thinks. I want to be able to change that narrative and really focus on purpose and having the satisfaction knowing that you are fulfilling the exact thing that you are on this planet to do. And so that comment, I don't know, was a sign from the universe to let me know that I have so much more to do. And even though I've done a lot, even though I've accomplished a lot, I'm still not necessarily in my purpose. So that was a very, very eye-opening comment. So the next feedback that I got was, you're very interesting, encouraging, positive, and disciplined. The next one is determined, go-getter, attitude, focus mentally, confident, intent listener, which shows how vested you are in relationships, and that I'm very knowledgeable. So this one was great because it kind of showed me that the way that I'm showing up is very different at times than the way that I actually feel on the inside. And I can tell you, there are times when I literally stress myself out, being concerned with, well, did I show up right? Did I say the right things? Did I do the right things? Did I make the right decision? Is my hair okay? Did I wear the right dress? Is my fupa showing? Like, there's so many things that are running in my brain that I probably shouldn't even be concerned about. And so that's an interesting thing, because go-getter attitude, I get that. Focus mentally. Now that one, I did a good acting job there, because I usually feel like I'm a hot mess and I'm all over the place and I forget what I'm thinking. That time when you walk up the stairs and you all focus about what you're going to do, and as soon as you hit the top of the stairs, you literally forget what the heck you went up the stairs for. That's me. That's me every 15 minutes. So to know that someone is viewing me as someone who is mentally focused, that was a shocker. So that was interesting. Confident. I think that one is kind of fair, but there's a lot of times when I don't feel confident, but the perception is that I am confident. So that's cool. Intent listener. Now, my husband would absolutely argue that one. He thinks that I have the shortest attention span on earth. So to hear that someone thinks that I am an intent listener, boom, right back at you, baby. See? I listen. Okay. So don't be trying to check me. Next one. Shows invested interest in relationships. Now that one I will say is spot on, because I think relationships are important. I focused on that in the first episode when I talked about how to build relationships. So I had a whole episode about it. So I think that's right on. So I'll move on to the next one. Now this one was interesting. They said that I'm a no nonsense person and I am very impactful at what I do. So that one was very heartwarming. But I want you to keep in mind, the no nonsense part, because I'm going to come back to that a little bit later. And I'm going to explore the other side of what that might mean, because it's, it might not all be a good thing. And the last one was not afraid to take charge. And so that's a very interesting one because if I'm being completely honest, there is not a day that goes by that I wake up that I am not scared shitless about something, right? So not afraid, not quite true. The goal is to do even when you're afraid. So the perception that everything that I've done from here, to get here, everything that I've done to get here has been absence of fear is a total farce. I constantly have fear, but the goal is learning how to execute and do even in fear. So we'll get into that as well. So very interesting feedback. And a lot of it made me feel great about myself. It gave me encouragement, confidence to want to keep doing what I'm doing and moving forward. Now let's move on to the vulnerable piece. The ones that were not so, I don't want to say they were bad, but it just gave me a lot to think about, so I'll get started. So one person wrote that I have a very pleasant outward appearance, but sometimes I look as though I am battling with my own thoughts. Interesting. I don't know how someone would know what is going on inside of my head, but see, that's the key. People think that what's going on inside is hidden. But in actuality, everything that's going on inside is coming out in different ways because it's energy. So people are feeling energy. When you're in turmoil, people can feel that. People can sense that. So that was very interesting because I didn't realize that was something that was being felt by others around me. Listen, I thought I had it all together. I thought I knew how to keep it all in and make it all look good. But that comment right there let me know that just because, I show up, I look nice, I have my lipstick on and I got my, my curls are popping that day, does not mean that what's going on inside of me is not being felt. So the next one, this is an interesting one. Somebody told me that I have trust issues and that it appears to them that I am guarding my heart against hurt, maybe from the past. Now, I thought that, all that time in therapy and, all this success would put me in a position to be past that. And now what I'm realizing is it's an ongoing journey, because this particular person, I know exactly who said this, is someone that actually worked for me. She was actually my house manager. Now, don't get me started. Yes, I have a house manager and I'm not ashamed of it. So don't even go there. She's someone that helped me manage the house when I was working 25 hours a day. So she got a chance to experience me in a very intimate way. Now, that's just, one part of what she said, but I'll go in a little bit more in depth about sort of the totality of what she shared with me, because she did give me, a lot of confidence. She was actually the one that said that I was determined and a go-getter and had a go-getter attitude and mentally focused and all of that. But what she originally said was, but I sense that there is some sort of emotional or psychological imbalance with you. Which I thought, damn, Gina, you just came right at me, just all direct. But then she says, but I'm not going to get into that. That's for your therapist to figure out with you. That made me laugh because I'm like, but I thought I've overcome that. I've been in therapy forever and a day. So I don't know if I'm just wasting my money. But for someone to sort of point that out, I thought was interesting. But I said, well, if she's pointing it out, then let's dive into it. So I told her, I said, hey, why don't, you touch more on the imbalance that you see? And I told her, I said, look, I'm very aware of it. So don't feel like you're going to hurt my feelings. And she went for it. She basically said that she felt that there was, an imbalance, and that because I keep my emotions in, sometimes I can be very standoffish and very dismissive. And she says, everybody has personality flaws, but that one in particular, is one that I've noticed. And then she said to me, and this was interesting, she says, so I asked myself a question, well, why are you standoffish? Are you shy? And then she went even further and says, look, I follow you on social media, and your following on social media isn't as big as I think it should be. And I can't understand why. And she says, I feel like you have a suit of armor on, and you don't allow people to see the real you. And then she said, if you could break down your walls and let people see who you really are, they will like you. They will follow you in an instant. And she says, you're great now, but you will be 1,000 times greater if you can find a way to unbottle those emotions and allow yourself to be open and vulnerable. And that hit me like a ton of bricks, because honestly, I didn't realize that I did that. I didn't realize that I showed up that way. And then that opened Pandora's box, because as soon as I mentioned it, everyone was like, well, I didn't want to say, but actually I've experienced that with you too. My assistant, same thing. She was like, yeah, when I first started when I first started working for you, I kind of felt that too. So it really sort of opened the box, and it allowed people to really be honest with me about how I was showing up. So even though it didn't necessarily feel good, what did feel good was, wow, see, now I have an opportunity to confront it. I have an opportunity to deal with it and to change that, because I thought I was being open. I mean, goddamn, I got a whole podcast talking about all my personal stuff, putting everything out there, but yet people still felt like they weren't getting the real me, so that has really driven me to really focus on this new season and making sure that you get all of me, or as much as I can possibly give to you based on the tools that I have right now today. So with respect to this trust issue thing, I had to actually respond to that one, because I didn't respond to a lot of the comments, but this one I had to respond to, because when it was pointed out to me, and, I began to understand the other person's perspective, I thought to myself, this is absolutely true. Because just like, a lot of people, I have been hurt, my heart has been broken. And I think that when I look back at my childhood, and I look back at, different things that have happened, like, my father not being there at certain times in my life, or, my mother being so overwhelmed that she's mentally and emotionally shut down and feeling abandoned. I think that has a lot to do with that trust issue, because when you haven't established trust as a child to know that your parents or whomever is in your life is emotionally or physically present for you, then how can you expect that in life in general, And so that's a piece of me that still hasn't been healed yet, and all of that, and you'll see it as the season goes on, translates into the type of decisions that I made for the business. And typically, whenever I was making decisions that resulted in a lack of trust or feeling like someone was going to abandon me or a client wasn't going to utilize me, 9 times out of 10, maybe even 10 times out of 10, I made decisions that did not honor who I really was. And I contorted myself, I bent over backwards, I overgave, and I did things that were to my detriment simply because I did not want that person to leave me or to not do business with me. And you have to ask yourself, how many people are in business that have made those type of decisions, that have kept clients on that were just the worst possible clients you could ever have, that overused your resources, that treated you like crap, that treated your team like crap, and made your environment toxic, but you held on to them and you kept giving and giving and giving and giving of yourself when they didn't deserve it. So when I talk about these childhood traumas, or I talk about the different things that these people are mirroring for me, this all goes into how I ran the business, and some things were beneficial for me, but some things were absolutely detrimental. And so those are the things that I'm going to be exploring. I mean, we're going to celebrate the successes, don't get me wrong, but I feel like the majority of the growth, the learning, comes from those failures, comes from those decisions that were made out of fear or made out of feeling not good enough, or decisions that were made because you couldn't handle someone saying no or someone leaving you. So this was very eye-opening for me, and I'm excited to dive into it. I'm scared shitless, but that's all. It's all about facing your fears and still moving forward. So this one was very impactful. So now, moving on. So this was a good one. Are you doing your business to fill a void or cover up something? Is the business for you a false, happy place? Ooh, that one put me back on my heels, because I'm still pondering that one. I'm not sure if that's true or not, because I've thoroughly enjoyed being an entrepreneur. I've thoroughly enjoyed growing the business. Now, with that said, have I always been happy? Hell to the no. It's been frustrating. It's been daunting. Some days I get up and I say, now why did I some days I get up and I say, why did I do this again? Why did I start this business? Why does it have to be this hard? So this is a question that I'm still pondering, and I'm hoping by the end of this season, I will get my answer. So this is food for thought. Think about, is the business that you're in really about the business, or is it really about something else? And so I have to sit and think about it, because when I think about why I started the business, there's a lot of different reasons that come up. And I'm not sure all those reasons have to do with my purpose or reasons that would have even made me happy. I'm pretty sure that there are reasons on that list that have to do with fear, that have to do with trying to prove myself, trying to make sure that I'm good enough, I'm achieving enough. Those aren't all the reasons, because I was very intentional about wanting to give back, wanting to affect change and open doors for others. So there is that there, but is the business that I'm in the optimal way? Is the business that I'm in the optimal way to do that? Is it my purpose? And here I am starting a brand new venture, starting a podcast, writing a book, trying to figure out what my purpose is. So now I'm in a juxtaposition. Still have my foot in my original business. Now I have another foot into a new business. Which one is the right path for me? So this is what I'm going to explore throughout the season, because right now, hell, I don't know. But that's okay. I'm not supposed to know yet. There's some things that I need to go through and that I need to explore that's going to give me the answers. So this season, I'm going to put one foot in front of the other, and I'm going to be as aware as I can. I'm going to take in all of your feedback and all of the comments and different things that I get throughout the season, and I'm going to figure out the answer. And I will reveal the answer by the end of the season. So just stick with me. So that means that y'all have to listen to all my episodes to get that answer, because I guarantee you, as I go through this season and this year of self-discovery and I begin to learn, I guarantee you that you are also going to learn about you and your purpose. So we're in this together. We're going to be exploring this together. And just as I get my answer at the end of the season, I want you to get your answer by the end of this season. Okay? Bet. So we are now accountability partners. We're going to do this. Okay? All right. So moving on. I think I talked about this a little bit. So unbalance coming from emotional instability, maybe from the past. So I kind of dove into that already. But I also want to say that all of us have some emotional place or emotional things that we haven't yet dealt with. So that's just something I think that everybody should be aware of, because I am becoming aware. I didn't realize that when I become very emotional and it overwhelms me, I shut down. And when I shut down, it's perceived as standoffish or dismissive, right? So that is an indication for me. That's my work. So now I need to figure out, well, how do I put myself in a position where I can allow myself to have these emotions and still be open and still be vulnerable? Because the shutting down is the blocking of the emotions from being fully expressed. And when I think about these comments, I'm not judging myself, and that is growth. Let me tell you, last year I would have been all up and down judging myself, and feeling like I'm a bad person or I make people feel bad. I wouldn't focus on all the wonderful things that people said about me. I'd hone in on the one negative thing that somebody said, and I would harp on that. And I would give all of my energy to that one thing, and that one thing is really just a tiny speck, on the circle of 99.9999999% other things that I'm doing well. So it's helping me shift my focus into what I do well versus what I don't do well, but approaching what I don't do well with curiosity and neutrality. So that's the key. So see, I'm already dropping dimes and we only in the second episode, y'all. So this is something to think about. So when I think about, all of this feedback and data and information, because that's really what it's about. It's about, understanding, what's around you, the energy that you're in, what you're giving off, what you're getting back, all of that stuff. So now I sort of ask myself the question, how did my childhood trauma shape me? How did it help me be the person that I am today? So we're going to be exploring that all throughout the season. So I'm not going to dive deep into that today because I'm going to break it apart into multiple segments. So we'll talk about it. But I asked a question to my oldest son, who's 27 years old, and I asked him the same question. And this is what he wrote. He wanted to hear, well, first of all, he didn't say any good stuff. So that's the first thing. He was like, oh no, Mom, I am not about to blow smoke. But what he wanted to know, and this is important, especially as you're raising your kids. He said, what I want to hear from you, Mom, is a time when you recently faltered. Now, he didn't even say a time when you faltered. He wants to know like now, like recent. Like I want to know current failures. I don't care about the past failures, current failures. And then he said, be it in business or personally. And he says, and I know you're over 40, so I want to hear something that's fresh in your mind because I know you have no memory, right? So that was an interesting question. And what I'm realizing, so he just gave me the blueprint for something when it comes to my children. Children do not care if you are perfect. As a matter of fact, it's more important that they see you at your worst and that you are sharing all of your failures with your children. And it kind of made me think because I also have an 8-year-old son that is constantly like on me. Like he loves when I trip, when I fall, when I buy the wrong orange juice, when I forget. I mean, he loves it. And it used to irritate me and I couldn't understand why, or if we play Monopoly. In one of those very rare cases, I mean, very rare that I lose, like very rare, because I'm like the Monopoly queen. But I digress. He celebrates. He literally celebrates. And it used to irritate me, but just my son asking me this question, and literally it's just coming to me right now as I'm talking, that's the connection. That's the growth. Your kids connect with you when you're most vulnerable, and you are most vulnerable in your failures, in your process of picking yourself up. That's when they connect with you the most. I didn't know that until like right now, this second, literally this second, I didn't know that. So now when I think about my strained relationship with my daughter, she's never seen me fail. She's never seen me be wrong. I never showed that side to her because my belief system said, show her how to be strong because it's going to be hard out there. It's hard out there for women. She has to be strong. She has to be perfect. She can't show weakness. She can't do any of that. And and I didn't understand that, with the millennial class, which she's a part of, they're just a new breed. They ain't got time for all that. They don't have time for perfection, and when I think about my daughter and why she struggles with me is because she only knows one side of me. She doesn't know the vulnerable side of me. And so there's a lot of teaching there that she didn't get. And I'm literally just realizing that right now as we speak. So I have a lot of work to do there. And I'll discuss that a little bit as the season goes on because, again, it all relates, right? That one got me a little bit emotional because I'm literally learning lessons right now as I'm talking to you. So is this vulnerable enough for you guys? Okay. I'm trying to gather myself here. So I just would encourage you, everybody, that throughout your day, anytime you have a challenge or a failure, you should be sharing that with your kids, because those are the lessons. That's the wisdom. It's not in telling them, well, you should do this and you should do that, because I am the queen of that. It's in showing them what it looks like. I never showed my daughter what it looked like to be vulnerable and to express those emotions, and the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. She is literally my twin. We are exactly alike. So I can tell you right now, she is processing the same way that I did, because I didn't get it from my mother. My mother didn't get it from her mother. And I didn't have the tools to give it to my daughter when she was a child. But as I'm learning these tools, and she is really the inspiration why I decided to write my book, because my book talks about all those failures. So it's my way of becoming current. So if I lay out all of those challenges that I went through when I was raising her, she always has that, because just because they didn't get it when they were children doesn't mean there's not an opportunity for them to get it, when they're adults. There's always room for them to learn those lessons. So as I'm learning, I'm passing them along, and I think that you should do the same if you so choose. Um, so so moving on, some other questions that I had to ask myself. Some other questions that I had to ask myself was, and I think I already answered it, what was it? What was the dismissiveness about? And that's the part of getting curious. So when someone is telling you something or giving you criticism, approach it with curiosity. Well, if you're feeling that way, well, let me sit back and see what that's about. But they're all connected. I mean, when you think about trust and emotions and not being vulnerable, I mean, it's all connected, and therein lies the blueprint of who you are. So you have to take in all the information that comes to you, because that's telling you, that's the mirror that's reflecting back to you to show you. So anytime you're feeling like, well, who am I? Well, just ask somebody. And I don't care if it's the ugliest, meanest, most critical comments, take it in. If it's the nicest, most uplifting comments, take it in. Because somewhere inside of you, they're all true. Now, some people may put a little stank on it. I get it. They may go a little overboard, but take that with a grain of salt. Just take in the information, because it's helpful, and even right now, I'm literally putting on a clinic for myself today. And if anyone else gets anything out of it, then I've done my job. So I have to ask myself, why don't I let people in easily? Because I'm scared shitless of being hurt. I don't know how to process those emotions. My heart is still the heart of a 7-year-old little girl. So if I'm a 46-year-old adult with a 7-year-old little heart, I'm not going to easily let people in, and so, my goal for this next half of my life is growing that little girl up. And the first step, at least the first step that I'm choosing to take, is through this platform, is showing you that 7-year-old little girl that's been running a multi-million-dollar business, that's been raising children, that's been a wife. I mean, think about it. Think about what a 7-year-old is like. Can you imagine a 7-year-old with a suit and high heels on, trying to process all the different emotions and energy that's coming at them? How many 7-year-old yous are out there? And some of us aren't even 7. Some of us are 2. Some of us are 15. Some of us, have an 8-year-old heart, or tools to process or not process things. So that's really what it's all about for me. So with that said, and I'm getting so much out of my own podcast, that's crazy. And I'm not just blowing smoke up my own, but I really am having a moment here. So I'm hoping that it's also translating to everybody that's listening, because I'm going to be going home with a whole lot to think about, and this particular episode has been, oh man, it's just been therapeutic. I can just feel, I feel like I can physically feel my heart opening just a little bit. It's just like just a little centimeter. Still have a long way to go, but I can feel that I'm on the path and that I'm in my purpose. And I'm hoping that, you guys will help me along the way, or we can help each other. So I really want you guys to give me feedback. And the way that you can do that is you can email Real Talk Studios at LaShondraM.com. Oh, and the way you can do that is you can email me at realtalk at LaShondraM.com. So please send your feedback. Tell me what you thought about this topic. Tell me your story. I'd love to explore topics, that you feel are important, that you think I could add value to. So please, again, real talk at LaShondraM.com. Send me your comments. So in closing, because I am emotionally drained and spent with this particular episode, I want to close it out. And I just want to go over briefly some of the things that we've touched on today, and things that we're going to be exploring throughout the season, So as you guys are running your business and in your careers, really, really think about, how your childhood traumas are affecting your decisions and how you're showing up. Think about, do you have trust issues? Do you have abandonment issues? And how is that showing up in your business? How is that showing up in your business culture? And how are you overcoming those insecurities? So, is that she going to be the next episode? I don't know. Yes, yes. Okay, yeah. Is that what you're trying to tell me? Okay. Oh, is it? 3 minutes? Okay, I have 3 minutes. So really start to think about how your childhood traumas are showing up, in your business, showing up in your decision making, and just showing up in general in your personality and how you're interacting with others. I am so excited about the next episode because it's really a continuation of what we've talked about. I have a special guest by the name of Dina Skipa, and she is a female entrepreneur. She just launched her business. She's been in business for about 2 years, but she has a amazing background, and her business is called Enough Labs. So she is doing coaching and consulting to women and young girls on how to accept that you are enough just the way you are. And so she talks about diving into the different childhood traumas that have forced us to think that we are not enough, that we need to prove something, that we need to overachieve and do all these things to be accepted. So she talks about different tools and strategies and how we can overcome the disease of not enough. So I want to thank everybody for joining me today. This has been an amazing podcast. I don't care what y'all think. Well, I do, but it's been great for me. So I hope you join me for Dina and Enough Labs, or the disease of not enough. And thank you so much for listening.